Johnson Wagner with us from the Golf Channel and the Grey Cup. What do you make of that, Johnson?
That is a good-looking trophy right there. I was watching a little CFL highlights last night, actually.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all.
Like, this is the champs. This is where they're living right now, man, the Alouettes, and they're probably the best team in the CFL right now, so they're going for back-to-back. But
you can see some of the party dents, which I respect. I have a ton of respect for.
Yes. I mean, what do you think? Do you think you could do some damage with that thing, Johnson? I mean, does it, like, one of the more famous moments, I think, on the Golf Channel this year was you and Bryson DeChambeau at Pinehurst. U.S. Open. That was unbelievable TV.
Really cool to get to hold that U.S. Open trophy. But
did you guys hammer beers from it afterwards or no?
I didn't get – I watched it get engraved, and I went into the locker room, and I did have a few beers in the locker room with Bryson and his team. He was drinking a glass of red wine. I was drinking the beers as fast as I could.
Attaboy, yeah. This thing has definitely been through the ringer a little bit over the years. But it's great to see him, man. How you liking Montreal so far?
I love Montreal. Played here in 2014 Canadian Open, and just incredible town. Lots to do downtown. Unfortunately, the NBC crew is staying out by the airport, but I've made it up to downtown once. Went to eat at Gibby's.
Yes.
Fantastic dinner, really cool old restaurant, and yeah, I love it here.
How do you think the course sets up for this type of tournament, this type of format? Is it ideal, or is it you're giving?
Can I be honest here?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a great 72-hole stroke play golf tournament. But when you think about match play, you want excitement, right? And there's only 2 par 5s, the 6th hole and the 12th hole, and then you've got 14 that can play drivable. So I just
didn't they transform one par 4 into a par 5? Keep it a par 5.
Keep it a par 5. Why not? So what if they're hitting 8 irons in there and making eagles? It's just the birdies and the eagles, and we're seeing guys tear it up. That last group out there today, Cantlay Burns shot 6 under on the front 9, and the international team of Matsuyama and Connors were 5 under, and they were 1 down. So it's they're playing really great golf. The course is scoring very well today with the softer conditions.
Well, that's been the setup. I mean, us leading to this moment when they finally got going this morning, and it was a great opening ceremony. There was a lot of buzz on one tee. Is the Americans have owned this event for forever. I mean, literally since it began. I mean, I think the international team won the first one ever, and ever since then they've been chasing it. And on a day like today, it's coming down the wire. These matches are close. Within the next hour and a half, we could see things flip. But if it ends up 4-1 Americans, 5-0 Americans, I mean, how do we set this up as a close tournament the rest of the way?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to do that. But, I mean, like you said, all these matches currently for U.S. For the matches the U.S. is 1 up in, so anything can happen in that closing stretch, and the internationals just got back to even in that 4th match. So, nobody wants to see that. It happened to the U.S. side in Rome, lost 4-0 in the first session, and you're fighting the whole way back, and it's really hard to do in this sort of format to come down from that kind of a deficit. So international team needs to get something going, and hopefully it's that Tom Kim who seems to be the spark that team needed. It looked like he and Scheffler may be getting in fisticuffs.
What's the deal with that? Because they're buddies, right? Like
they're just screwing around. I think they're having fun.
They're having fun, but Tom Kim made that birdie on 8 after he made the long one on 7 and walked off to the 9th tee, and it's like, man, are you really trying to make the number 1 player in the world mad? And then Scheffler's gone out and played pretty well since then.
Well, what's interesting about that is we were on 10T waiting for them to come up. And the international team, I think Scheffler and Henley were using the washroom or something because they were delayed. But they didn't wait for him on the tee either.
No, they just teed up.
They teed off. And then Scheffler and Henley walked up and were like, okay, I guess you guys have hit. Like, let's get rocking here. Like, Sung Jae Im, I think, had hit. Like, they were there by the time Kim was going to put the peg in the ground.
Those 2 guys, Henley and they were not even on the tee. 1 caddy was. That's it.
That's right.
Well, the internationals had the honor there. So, I mean, maybe
that's not breaking the rules or
anything. No, I mean,
like,
after they walked off onto the 9th tee, maybe Scheffler and Henley were like, let's slow this thing down, try to get under their skin.
Okay.
I got to tell you, on that 10th tee, Mike Weir went to the fans, and he was like, guys, let's get cooking here. We need some excitement. And I looked at him, and I was like, these guys, like, it's okay to be a little bit greasy. If the Americans miss a putt, I know it's not very sportsmanlike, but they got to get greasy out there to create some kind of atmosphere.
You Canadians are too nice. That's
it. Get a little bit greasy, man.
Exactly. But to that point, you mentioned the opening ceremony. I was standing down on the, about 30 yards off the tee box, and it was electric in there. And then this front 9 sort of came out a little bit flat. There was a lot of birdies, and there just wasn't a lot of emotion coming out of the crowd. And hopefully as they get to this stretch where all the grandstands are here in the middle of the back 9, we'll see a little bit more fire and a little bit more emotion. But this place can hold a ton of people.
Yeah.
I was told it was going to be packed, and I'm personally a little sad that it's not more crowded out here and giving that vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is that over the course of the week, it definitely will pick up. I think by the weekend it will be packed out here. But they had the tournament here in 07, and it's outside of downtown, and it's been a bit of a gong show trying to get out here, I think, for a lot of people. And the weather was touch and go. That bridge is a problem, man. The amount of people stopping and talking about the bridge, it's unprecedented at a golf tournament. The bridge. Everything's about the bridge out here. Every icebreaker is talking about the bridge. But, as for where we are with this American team, when you look at Scotty Scheffler, when you look at Xander Schauffele, like, the two of them are so good. They're so dialed in. You mentioned Cantlay when he gets to a tournament like this. Like, the Americans just have so much talent.
They do, and you look at the average world rank, it's 12 for the U.S. side, and it's over 30 for the international side, but that's not that different than the U.S. faces against Europe in the Ryder Cup. So the international team is starting to figure out how to build their brand. I think they've been hurt a lot by Liv the last couple of years with players like Cam Smith and Louis Oosthuizen and a bunch of other guys going. But that being said, I've seen so many things early in this week during practice rounds that gave me a lot of hope for the international team. They seem to be gelling. I'm not giving up on anything at all yet. I think they could turn around and maybe have this first session and then hit the ground running.
Take it
tomorrow.
from there.
Right.
Take it from there. Johnson Wagner with us of NBC and the Golf Channel. You have started, was it this year, I guess it started, where they're sending you out onto the course live from, and you're hitting wedges and you're hitting bunker shots.
You're never getting out of that. You know that, right?
I've been pigeonholed into I got one talent now, and that's going out and making a fool of myself.
So do you bring your own clubs up to all these? Or?
The first time I did it was at the Players' Championship, and I didn't. And my son was there. He had his clubs, so I was using his clubs that whole week, which are shorter, a little flatter, and I was hitting a lot of bad shots. So since then, I've brought my sticks to every event.
Okay.
Not that it helps.
I think you handle it beautifully because you've hit that shot, again, I mentioned at the U.S. Open, when you went in the bunker with Bryson DeChambeau, and you stuffed.
That's just great TV, man.
It was incredible TV, and you stuffed that to like inside 6 feet. That must have been an incredible feeling for you.
Well, the first one I cleaned over the back of the green, and the clubhouse is there, and it one hopped into a bush. I guess it was dark. I never found that ball, but fortunately, I got a mulligan live on air, and I pulled it off. But there's been more failure than success. It's hard to go out there and hit shots on major championship venues or President's Cup venues, and,
no kidding,
and look like you know what you're doing when you haven't practiced in that.
Well, Chambly loves it, huh? He loves watching you hit those shots.
Well, I was recreating the Woody Austin shot Monday night out of the
pond. I saw.
And, I mean, he was so mad at me that I didn't either fall in the water or just cover myself with water.
Right.
And, you know,
you've got standards, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
The water was a little murky. I didn't want that pond scum on.
I don't blame you, man. And playing to the crowd, like, it is different in these tournaments, right? Like,
yes.
There's an element of that. And what's different also for the international team is the Canadian guys have a connection here. But if you're Adam Scott or Minwoo Lee, like, you're not Canadian. It's as much of a road game for you as it is the Americans, is it not?
I think it's getting better in that regard. I mean, I think all the international team is embraced. And when you go to Italy last year, there was not a single Italian on the European team. So
right.
You could make that argument. No, I think it's a home game for all these guys. I mean, Adam Scott's been doing it. This is his 11th President's Cup. So he's played all over the world in these things. I'm sure he would prefer to be in Australia to Montreal, but I'm sure he loves being here too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And next year, the Ryder Cup in Bethpage. Like, that's where, again, you look at the crowds and the anticipation. Everyone's been building towards that since they announced it, and it's obviously been years in the making. But the idea of it being in New York, I mean, you got history in New York. Like, that crowd could be absolutely electric.
And, I mean, thinking about John Rahm, if he were to make that team, how brutal the fans at Bethpage.
They'll get crushed.
I mean, they were brutal to Sergio back in the 2002 or 3. I think it was the 2003.
That was the waggle.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Dude, those waggles were insane, though.
Can you imagine how brutal those fans are going to be to some of those European players? Whew.
But that's kind of what you need out here. And you mentioned, like, Canadians are kind of too nice. And, like, Brian Harmon's not playing. But if Harmon, he will be playing tomorrow. If they're not counting waggles tomorrow, I will be disappointed for our country.
I completely agree with you.
You have to be on him about that.
I mean, Brian's one of my best friends on tour, but if I were, I'm sure he's prepared for it. But yes, you have to. That's part of home field advantage in these Cup events.
Yeah, you absolutely need it. Jim Furyk, I thought his opening statements, they were quick, succinct, but like right on the nose for him. I mean, how does the tour? We know how Mike Weir is revered, and obviously we love Mike Weir up here. He's been the face of Canadian golf for a long, long time. But Jim Furyk, the captain of this American team, like, where does he rank for you in terms of, great American golfers and what he represents to the game?
Yeah, I mean, he's very stoic. I had the opportunity to play a ton with him. He's a blast to play with. I think everybody has a tremendous amount of respect. But I think when you look at where the U.S. captaincy is right now, Keegan Bradley was sort of a shock to get that Ryder Cup captaincy. It's because the void that Tiger Woods left in his wake is there are no great prolific winners in his era other than him. So I think Furyk's excellent choice, was a former Ryder Cup captain as well in 18, but I'm ready for this youth movement of great American captains coming up, and I think that's starting with Keegan Bradley, and it's time to get a whole new generation of these guys.
Don't you think it would be awesome to get Tiger Woods out there in some capacity in New York, man? I don't know if he would ever want to be a vice captain, but just having that guy walk on a tee block, like that would be nuts.
Everything I've heard, he's pushing off his opportunity until Ireland. The next, he wants to be a captain on the road. Does not want to do it.
Why would that be the case?
I have no idea, because I think it was his if he wanted it at Bethpage.
Oh, I'm sure it would have.
Clearly didn't.
And it's more difficult to win on the road. Like, and after watching what Zach Johnson went through, why would you want anything to do with that?
Well, I think Tiger's all about setting records, and we haven't had a U.S. win on European soil since 1993. So Tiger has played through all those years of struggles on foreign soil. So I think he maybe wants to have that feather in his cap.
Okay, I mean that would be pretty cool, and the idea of him continuing to play, like we haven't heard great news from Tiger this week. I mean, you're more connected than we are. What is a reasonable expectation in terms of him playing golf in the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, I think I love him, and I owe my career to him, because I made a good living. If he didn't come through, the PGA Tour wouldn't have been where it was when I played. That's for sure. But I think it's hard to play 4 or 5 times competitively in a year and think that you can go out and win.
We said it before. Every Monday he's like, I got a chance to win, and then on Friday when he misses the cut, he says, I never play. It's like it can't be both.
No. And that's fine. If he wants to embrace the fact that he's now a ceremonial player, he can go make the cut and maybe finish top 25 at Augusta. Fine.
Cool.
That's great. I would love to have that opportunity, but I don't see him winning golf tournaments anymore.
No, I mean, that's going to be a difficult hurdle for him to overcome. That acceptance, because
when he tees it up that he's not going to win,
that he's going out to wave to people and play golf.
And also keep in mind, it's not like he's going. No disrespect to the John Deere Classic. I love that tournament. Great town. The Quad Cities, Illinois, it's fantastic. But it's not like he's showing up at a lower tier PGA Tour event thinking he can win. He's showing up to major championships.
Yes,
and
the best tournaments of the best tournaments. Never playing, never on a range, anything. He just wheels in there. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah, like that. Like him showing up at Pinehurst and thinking he could compete at that course.
And nothing would make me happier than to see him in the hunt. But it's gone.
I mean, that was Bryson and Rory at the top of their game.
That's the thing. Like, when Tiger came on the scene, like, he was hitting it longer than all these guys play Tiger Woods golf now.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They all hit it that far. They all got short games that are outrageous. They putt the lights out. It's like they all play Tiger golf.
That's who they grew up idolizing.
Exactly, and now they play like him.
And they all work out. Like, my generation, 40% of the guys worked out. Just ahead of me, Tiger's generation, even less. And now all of them are fit. You have to be. You cannot make it. I mean, you look at these 24 players here. Is there one person out of shape? They're all jacked.
It's incredible. Yeah, and they all crush the golf ball.
Crush it.
Like, crush the golf ball.
Well, maybe not Brian Harmon.
Maybe not Brian Harmon.
He's just a wee guy.
Maybe not Brian Harmon. With Johnson Wagner. Mackenzie Hughes, we love Mackenzie. We have him on all the time. He's a good friend of ours. He plays out of Quail Hollow. You play with him. He claims he's a +6 at Quail Hollow.
That sounds right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that sounds right.
What are you?
Well, at one point I was a +6. Now I'm a +2.3, and I'm playing worse than a scratch. I'm playing to about a regular 2.3. My game is terrible. I'm trying to get some of these good rounds out, but then I go shoot a 67 and it stays in for another 6 months. So I'm good for about one good round every 5.
Okay.
6.
So you're stepping up to the first tee with Mac and saying you got to give me, 3 aside or something? Like, how many strokes do you get?
I don't play with guys like Mac anymore. I don't want to get beat that bad. Plus, they always want to go to the tips, which are 7,600 yards, and I just don't feel.
So
like
he's playing the tips every time he plays Quail Hollow.
I don't feel like doing it.
He's playing the. I know he's playing the member in a couple weeks, and he'll be playing with from up tees, the 3 birds, which is about 6,500.
So what's he going to shoot it like from 6,500?
When I was playing great, if I didn't shoot 66 or better, I was upset from those tees. Like, it's short. You should rip it up.
Yeah. Do you know how humbling that is? Like, that's what we play all the time. And O's a good golfer. You're playing off a scratch. I'm okay, but the idea of being pissed that you shot a 67 from 65.
Like, imagine getting home and being like, I chopped it, and it was 67 today. Every other guy is dying for a 67.
Yeah, you'd be furious to hear that. Johnson Wagner of the Golf Channel. Great seeing you, man. We appreciate you doing this, and enjoy the rest of the week here in Montreal.
It's going to be incredible. Hopefully the weather stays like it is right now. Beautiful, and it's going to be a great week. Get the crowd out here, get some energy.
Let's get rocking, man. Good seeing you.
Thank you, guys.
There's Johnson Wagner of the Golf Channel. We're live at Royal Montreal. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Live from Royal Montreal, Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Our guy.
Jamie Noodles McLennan back in Montreal.
And first and foremost, like, you got to preface it. Like, it's not that I'm late for the show because I had a big night.
No, you had
with
business
Doogie
to attend to
night.
back at home.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back.
Exactly. I'm back, excited. Quick in and out to Toronto.
Quick in and out. Back home quickly and
Give
back
a
to Montreal.
Shout out to Old Nono. That's what I got.
Shout out to Old Nono. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had Johnson Wagner in here. Wagner's out, and now you're in. And it's good to see you. We got the Grey Cup here, man. How electric is this?
He ain't leaving that mustache, is he?
It is the greatest mustache. Like, I was like, is that a police officer that you're interviewing?
It's
when
a lifestyle.
I walked up, I thought he was. I'm like, that's a police officer.
No,
for
how
sure.
about this? He goes, yeah, we were talking about Graham Dillette and their buddies, and he goes, did he shave his mustache? Like, he was genuinely pissed that he
Immediately.
Yeah, he was pissed that he shaved his mustache.
Well, because Graham's was like,
aggressive.
It was wild.
Handlebar,
He was curling it
yeah,
and everything.
Rolly fingers.
And you're right, man. That was the first thing he said when he sat down.
Did Graham Dillette shave his mustache with a pissed-off look on his face?
He was so angry. He was legitimately furious
It's
that
a
Graham
lifestyle.
Dillette.
It's a lifestyle.
It is. And I can't speak to it because I haven't lived it, but that is something. He will have that mustache for the rest of time.
Yes.
Like, that is the move, man, because once you become a mustache guy, you
You're
can't get
fully
off
involved. You're fully
do you have
involved.
a friend? Like, do you have a friend from like 16
No.
to now that's been mustache guy?
No, I don't.
I don't know if I have one guy on my roster, like my Rolodex, who's had a mustache consistently since we were kids.
Nobody that I know of.
I mean, they're clearly back in right now, but you would think a wife gets involved sooner or later, and they say, that's enough with that thing. Because
Yes, I mean that when I grew the beard during COVID,
Yes.
and
my mom liked it.
Your mom was a fan, and my wife was a fan too. But I said I got to get out of this because I'm going to start spiraling out of control.
And it's itchy.
Well, that's a part of it too, and it's just kind of, I don't know. I wasn't prepared to
Stuff
be
gets caught in
regular lifestyle beard guy. You know what I mean?
guy.
COVID
Yeah.
was different. The hair was flying. I had the beard going. But once we were like, all right, we're getting back into reality here. We're going into studio again. We're doing different things in the world. I'm like, I got to cut bait. I got to get back to reality. But, it's good to see Johnson Wagner. It's good to see you. And we saw Nick Suzuki was walking around here today.
cool.
And
Yeah, he came by for a stop and chat, captain of the Habs.
Yep.
He presents really well. I've chatted with him a few times. Like,
Really super guy.
He gets it. Like, that was the one thing in talking. You do some Montreal games. You guys know still am close with Marc Bergevin. Bergevin would tell me, he said, Shea Weber told Marc Bergevin, that's your next captain. Like, that's how much Shea thought of Nick Suzuki when he first arrived on the scene in Montreal. The way he conducted business, just, good guy, good citizen, and a natural leader. And he's progressed into that. Now he's got to take the next step. Took a step last year. I think he had 72 points. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
Hell of a player.
Really good two-way player.
But we'll see, you need to progress and grow, but hell of a person.
Composes himself incredibly well. And it's a lot like we were talking about with Matthews in Toronto.
Yeah.
There's some news in Buffalo today. Rasmus Dahlin has been announced as their captain.
Yeah.
If you get these young guys with long-term deals that are going to be here, that understand the magnitude of the role of being captain and what it means to great hockey markets like Montreal, Toronto, Buffalo, you got to get that right. And you want to be able to commit to that. Like, if you're the fans, you don't want a constant revolving door of, every couple of years
and
someone
he apparently
else is coming
did some captain-type stuff this summer. He got a bunch of guys on his team over to Switzerland. They had some training. They hung out. I don't know what they did, golfed or whatever, but that's good stuff.
Team bonding. Like, you're kind of leading the way.
But all of it is for naught if they don't start winning games.
Oh, yeah.
It's
well, Montreal and Buffalo, for that matter.
Exactly.
They're all in that same boat. The teams that the teams that haven't made it for a while, they got to get to that next level. It's all lip service. There's contracts involved, all of that. But until you actually do it on the ice and get to that next level, that's where you're judged. Really?
Absolutely. And actually, that's a good segue into me plugging what's coming up on Hazy B listing today.
What do you got?
Hayes' list, the 5 teams that missed the playoffs last year that I think have the best chance of making it this year.
Oh, that's a great list.
The 5 teams that missed.
I can't wait to hear because there's going to be one.
You got to do me a favor, though. When you – it's just about optimism. Don't – like – you're talking about the positivity.
I understand that.
Don't take shots at them and then say, hey, they got a good – you're going to have a little shot, aren't you?
Well, listen, I only have 5. I'm not talking about 16. I'm going to give you a tease. San Jose is not included.
That's
right, and Anaheim and Chicago. Those teams are not in it. Columbus.
Right.
Like, they're not in it. I'll continue. They'll take licks because they deserve to take licks. Don't worry about them. But these 5 teams that I have listed – I think that doesn't mean I'm guaranteeing they make the playoffs.
But you just have a good feeling.
I have a better
scenario.
feeling. I could see a scenario exactly. Now, if there's going to be 5, that means 5 are coming out,
which is scary.
That's a lot of and there is turnover every single year.
But I don't know if 5 is the real
5 is
number.
extreme. 5 is extreme.
5 is bonkers.
Maybe you and we choose
of the 5. Which one do you think has the best chance?
We believe has the best chance.
Yes,
we get 1 each.
Side note, though, how heavy is this thing?
Do you want to give it a test?
I don't know.
Do you want to fire it over the?
Well, this guy.
Are we allowed to do this, Doogie? Doogie is having a heart attack right now. I don't see why not.
Well, you always hear stories. Like, I wonder what this trophy has seen and if it's been broken before and all of that type of stuff. Because
it's such a phenomenal
trophy.
There's
no Philip Pritchard here, watching this trophy.
I'm looking at the 1921 Toronto Argonauts right now. I love it.
Oh, yeah?
Sink McEvenu was the head coach. Abbott Batstone was on that team. The handles back in the day were great.
What I just did with this trophy, I was in a cab going to a venue, like a restaurant. It was a private thing, and the Stanley Cup was with me in the cab. And I grabbed it out of the cab to set it down, and I was about to put it over my head and do like a Stanley Cup pose, and the guy goes, don't even think about doing that. If you haven't won it, you're not allowed to put it over your head. And I was like, okay.
Winners aren't allowed to do it, yeah.
But then I see all these celebs like Charles Barkley and all these other people like
bogus, man.
Yeah,
that
it's
guy
insane.
He didn't want.
Everyone's got it over their head. I'm like, he must have been being a hero.
He had an issue with you in particular. You must have asked him for something, and then he goes, "All right, dude, if you want me to try to hook you up with that, you're not putting this over your head."
What else could I possibly? I didn't know the guy. I just said I took the Stanley Cup out of the car and I was about to put it over my head. He goes, "Don't even think about doing that. You have to win it to do it."
That's ridiculous because at these cup parties, people are doing it all. I know a lot of people who have put the cup over their head.
For 100%. I get every year because we all know the guys. You get a picture from somebody going, "Hey, I'm at a cup party. It's in the backyard. They're eating cereal out of it. They're, Italian guys eating gnocchi out of it. You name it." But I've never touched the Stanley Cup, and I've been to 10 parties, maybe 10 Stanley Cup parties.
I have
more.
no interest. Like, I love all my friends, and you guys know how I am, but I have no interest in going to the Stanley Cup party. It's like their thing. It's for their other friends. I don't want to go.
I just go to support. I went to Mike Commodore's. I went to Ray Whitney's. I've been Todd Woodcroft, who won it. God, he won it with L.A.
Yep.
And we went, he had it in Toronto. Steph was pregnant at the time. She was touching the belly to the cup and that. I took a picture of it. I'm like, I'm not taking a picture with it.
No.
So you wouldn't even take a picture with the cup?
Nah, what am I going to do?
Why not a picture with the cup?
Because
we played in the league.
I understand that, but what's wrong with the picture?
Because it's like, that's the closest you'll ever get to
that. Guess what, guys? You're not playing anymore.
You know who took a pic with it over his head like he won it? My guy, Carlo.
Yes, he did.
He did.
You're right.
He took a picture with it like he won it, and I respect that.
Petrangelo's cup party, I think it was.
And Carlo did it?
Oh, yeah. Koliakovo had no remorse.
He's against the rules.
He was right in there, cup over his head.
It was his cup for the day.
Yeah, it was basically his party. Yeah, he was going to run that operation. All right, we'll get I guess it's okay, Doogie. Yeah, we'll find a way to get more pictures as this goes on. But it's cool. It's really nice of the CFL. We want to thank the CFL.
That's very cool.
The Montreal Alouettes. Obviously, the champs are here. The Grey Cup champs here in Montreal, and they're here. It's a big event. This is a big civic pride type moment for the city of Montreal, the Quebec, the province of Quebec, and to have the CFL here, the Alouettes here, and the Grey Cup here. We really, really do appreciate it. The Leafs and Habs are playing tonight back in Toronto. Matthews isn't going to play. I think they're going
to on the ice. They're going to.
I think this will be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He doesn't play the rest of the preseason, and I wouldn't force him to play. Like maybe against Detroit next weekend, you slide him in. They play a home and away against Detroit. I think Thursday, Saturday to close out the preseason. Maybe you say you're playing in Toronto. But Berube was asked about him back on the ice today. Wouldn't commit to him playing Saturday. I don't think he's going on the road to Montreal anyway. You know,
right.
as a veteran, even if he was healthy, he'd probably be like, I'm not flying
anywhere. Well, it looked
anywhere.
like a skeleton crew they were dressing tonight.
Here's an example. The Habs are in Montreal. Nick Suzuki's cruising around Royal Montreal.
He was just on our set.
he's eating smoked meat.
Yeah,
just walking around.
Like
right?
he's not paying attention to what's going on. They're half the teams in Toronto getting set to play tonight, but they're going to have Domi in the middle of the ice with Marner, and they got Easton Cowan on that line, which I'm trying to decipher what that means. Is that you have one last chance and we're going to play with some pretty good guys?
Kind of feels like it, doesn't it?
Or is it, hey, this is a nice sending off, you and your Knights, alumni, you're playing with some good guys. Don't forget that's what it looks like in the big leagues before you head back to London.
Well, okay, it's very unfair, but where are you at with him? He hasn't stood out.
No, not through 2 games. And he's admitted that.
2 games,
To his credit, he's been overthinking it. And Berube said that today. You can see he's put pressure on himself. He's overthinking things.
But keep in mind, we could tell you, Brian, you could speak to this as well. How many great junior players that you play with, it takes time to settle in. Not everybody was like him that just stepped in and had an opportunity to play with great players. And, it takes time. Everyone arrives. That even if he gets sent back it's not an indictment on him. It doesn't mean he's not going to be successful.
Exactly.
It means right now, we'd just like you to continue to develop. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a slap in the face. Let's see. If he has a great game, maybe he earns another one.
There's all kinds of different angles to it. Maybe they don't want to send the kid back to junior tomorrow, and maybe we want him feeling good about his game so he can stick around for 4 or 5 more days. Maybe it's as simple as that.
I think it will.
Because that might be good for his confidence. And there's when we played the game, nobody really cared about our feelings or our confidence or whatever. Yeah. It was do it or don't. And if you're not going to be doing it, you're going to go back and play somewhere else. And that's just the way it was.
Not on the team, yeah.
Yeah, it was like Major League. You get red tagged and you go sit with somebody and it's like, take a hike, take your bag and get lost.
I read on Twitter today because I was flying back. But Travis Green, did you hear his comments?
Yeah, enjoy the game tonight. This will be your last game.
Chances are most of you, this is your last game.
See you later, guys. What a pep talk by Greeny.
Yeah, but you know what?
Dude, I love that.
It's a reality.
Yeah. Straight
don't think
shooter.
it doesn't matter what you could score 6 goals tonight. You're going to Belleville.
I don't know if that's the case, but I
played an exhibition game in Philly, and a young kid got 2 goals. We lost 3-2 on the plane. He got called up to the front of the plane, and the coach said, "You're going down tomorrow." I was like, "That guy just scored 2 goals. That guy just scored 2 goals."
Yes. Foregone conclusion, man. Yeah. Foregone conclusion.
If you went into every general manager's office this summer, the teams
they know who's making the team.
Except for maybe 1 or 2 spots, and they're like, okay, go and surprise me. Go and take that spot. I think with the Leafs, too, they're trying to figure out, okay, if Easton Cowan isn't in the situation right now, is Max Pacioretty? Is Nick Robertson? They've got decisions to make on this roster to try and win games starting in October. So it's not fantasy camp. It's like, hey, if you're not here, we're going to move you on type of thing. And it's no slight on you. It's just we've got decisions to make above you. That's really what it is.
Absolutely. The priority is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just like it's the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. That is the priority of the manager and the coach is to field the best team. It's not about feelings. It's not about anything like that.
I just chuckled when I heard
It's just a great
Greeny.
line by Travis Green.
Yeah. Chances are you guys aren't going to be here, but good luck to
It was such a to the point. I saw the tweet from Claire Hanna, and it just said, the coach Travis Green's message to the group today in quotations was, "This is probably your last game, so enjoy it."
Have a great time, guys.
Well, they're not. They're dressing a skeleton crew against Buffalo, I think it is. Or is it Buffalo they're playing tonight? So they're dressing a skeleton crew.
They know.
So it's like, okay, you guys are all getting one game, and we'll see you later.
Well, and listen, you get new coaches, Travis Green, Craig Berube. You got Lindy Ruff down at Buffalo. There's a lot of kind of newbies here and they want to establish who they are quickly.
They're coaching for keeps. That's how, Travis Green, Lindy Ruff, Craig Berube, They're not here, for feel-good stories. They're trying to.
They've been brought in to do something.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's not with these. Like the Leafs are in a different spot because they're better and they've been a playoff team every single year. But with Ottawa and Buffalo, it is not about the next steps and hey, let's try to really
experience.
That is not why these two have been hired. Like Travis Green. He understands the marching orders. You've got to get this team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like that is just simply the expectation.
Yeah.
Same thing with Lindy Ruff. Welcome back to Buffalo. You have to get this team into the playoffs.
And the thing is Lindy is not, 47 years old. Lindy, I think, is 68.
Mid-60s. Yeah.
And you get to a point. It was almost like Rick Bowness last year. Like Rick Bowness just shoots from the hip. He's not out to make buddies and that. Everyone loved Rick Bowness, but he didn't care. Like, he called guys out, straight shooter. Lindy Ruff, 10 minutes into camp is blowing it down, yelling at guys. Like, he's playing for keeps there. So
you just got to get them to play different. When the results are the same, obviously personnel is a big part of it and goaltending and all that, but it's like you got to have a different approach because whatever you're doing is not working.
Yeah.
And that's the coach's responsibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you make a coaching change, ultimately. And, again, in Toronto, it's a little bit different. That said, the idea of them chasing the division or chasing a better seed in the conference is something that should be talked about more, I think, here. Because sometimes we're all guilty of it. We put the cart before the horse and you start talking about playoffs. But put yourself in a better position come playoff time.
Sure.
Don't be the third seed. Don't start on the road. Don't have the tougher matchup where you're going to play a Florida or a Boston or a Tampa guaranteed.
All of it.
Chase that top seed. And that is something that Berube can try to instill because there were years where Sheldon Keefe was the head coach and they had slow starts, bad starts. This team has that history of losing to Chicago and Anaheim in the first 2 weeks for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to do it. Like, we talk about the importance of a hot start for Ottawa, for Montreal. The same thing should be expected in Toronto.
Dude, the Toronto Maple Leafs, what did they have, 105 points last year? What did they have?
Yeah, not even 105.
No, it's 102.
They had 102 points, and I don't even think that they got clicking during the regular season on all cylinders. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there was kind of weird stretches where you're like, how is this team even caught? But they ended up with 102 points, and I don't even think they ever got completely dialed into a point where it was like, man, they're humming right now.
But that's where it's important to what he's saying is they've gone from 115 to 110 to 105 to 102 or whatever it is. Don't make it 98. Make it go back the other way.
Yes.
Because that's what's important is your seeding. If you get a wild card team, you don't know whether that could be crossover. It could be somebody else. It could be a Washington or a Pittsburgh that sneaks in.
Exactly. Like last year, remember, it was exactly that. New York, I think, was playing the Capitals, I believe.
Yeah.
And Carolina had the Islanders, which, again, you can't control that, what's going to happen in the Metro with the 2-3 seed.
Right.
But that's what was coming, was you were going to get the opportunity to play a wild card team that is clearly an inferior team. Now, you still have to take advantage of that, and the Leafs have to prove that they are capable of doing that. But you'd much prefer to be in a situation like that where you play a team that just gets in, that is raw in the playoffs, and that you're at home, you're the big boy, and you can take advantage of and do yourself that favor and try to avoid Boston in the first round or Florida in the first round.
Gotta give yourself a chance.
The games in October are just as important as in April when it comes to point accumulation.
Yep.
Get off to a great start. And that I'm sure is the messaging, but it's on the players to receive that messaging and put it into practice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we talked about it. They can do it. I think the quality of competition in the Atlantic's going to be strong.
Sure.
Again, easier said than done. Because we just talked about Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa, Montreal. They have to pull their weight and show that they can, get to that next level. But, Boston, every year we're like, they might, take a step back. Maybe they do. Maybe Tampa. I think Tampa is the team that's, for me, I'm circling. This team now, that's 2 summers they've had full summers to work out.
It's a big benefit for them.
So that's, it wasn't the 3 years in a row where they had no summers and just a turnover. Tampa could be a team that you circle and go, yeah, they could do some damage. Florida, what does that look like? Is it Stanley Cup hangover? Or they hit the ground running like Vegas? Wasn't Vegas like 10-1 or 10-2 to start the season?
Coming off the Cup, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think that would be silly to overlook them. Or don't presume that that they're going to be a team to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
All right, we're live at the President's Cup. We got to be honest; it's not going well right now.
There's a lot of red up there, man.
As of right now, the Americans are leading all 5 matches, and if it's 5-0, I don't know what Mike Weir possibly says after this match.
If I gave you guys a truth serum 2 days ago when we were sitting here, you
5-0 is extreme.
Noodles, we've been saying it for the last 2 days. They have to get off to a good start. It's got to be 3-2 if they're going to be down at worst. And it's like they hit some good shots, the international squad on 18, and Shoffley just got up there with a pitching wedge and he hit it to a foot. It's like, how do you compete with that?
You can't.
You've been saying that since we've been watching. It's like, I just don't know how you compete with that. They're hitting better shots.
They are. Like the Americans are hitting seemingly every single fairway, and then they just put wedges inside 6 feet. And
away you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like every time I see the international team putting, they're always putting from like 20 feet.
Yeah.
25 feet. And they're lipping out putts and hoping to make these miracle putts. And they're just not going down. And if they don't go down, you're in big, big trouble. And, we were joking about Craig Berube being asked, panic seeping in. I wonder if he gets asked that question if the Leafs lose tonight. You lose 3 in a row in the preseason.
Wow.
Panic setting in for Craig?
Hasn't Edmonton got
They've been
tuned up?
getting dusted.
They're 0-3. They lost the back.
I'm joking. It's completely irrelevant. What I'm saying is when Mike Weir steps up, that's panic.
That's different.
Whoever asked that question the other night in Ottawa or in
Zoom,
it was in Ottawa.
Get him in Zoom.
Get that person into the President's Cup and ask Mike Weir. Obviously, panic setting in.
With the Jonas Mike sock.
Yes.
Stand there.
That's a very reasonable question if the Americans are up 5-0 after day 1. So we're tracking that. We're live at Royal Montreal. Luke Wilson coming up. Al's brother was texting. He and I have been going back and forth a lot today.
Whose pick is it?
It's our pick.
It's your pick.
And it's Dallas. Last time I checked on FanDuel, -5.5 still, Doogie. I think it's still Cowboys laying 5.5 on the road. Sounds like it could be some pretty ugly weather in New York tonight.
It's a must-win for Dallas.
It's absolutely a must-win for Dallas.
I know something that you always say, divisional game.
Divisional game, short week on the road. Laying that many points, it's a really tough call. But Al's brother will be joining us. Luke Wilson coming up to set the scene on week 4. Luke will join us in about 20 minutes. Bob Weeks coming up today. Pierre LeBrun coming up today. Day 1 of the President's Cup is off and running, and so is OverDrive, TSN 1050, and on TSN 4. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later this afternoon. One match is already over here. Xander Schauffele, Tony Finau.
Xander, man, what a shot.
He's too good, man. Like, they were 1 up. And, the international team, Jason Day, Ben On, they played pretty well. They kind of kept up with them. It's not like they blew the doors off
they got it to
them.
even to 18, and this guy just stuffed it to 1.5 feet on 18 and was like, thanks, we won the match.
Yeah, exactly.
It was awful to watch.
Like, so routine, just hat off. Hey, great stuff, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Like, he's so good. He's so good. And then you get Finau as a partner where Tony, he's capable of, like, that's a ham and egg special right there because Schauffele's so good. You can rely on him. And Finau's got so much talent. He can go at everything.
Dude, Finau can move the rock. When we went on the first tee the other day and I looked down the fairway, I'm like, that is a massive carry to get over that bunker on the left. He got up there today and absolutely smashed one. And it cleared the bunker by 40 yards.
Oh, yeah. Well, with a cut.
I know. It was insane to watch that golf ball. I'm like, because I know how far it goes now because I looked at that hole. That was an insane shot.
Yeah, he's so talented. And, again, as of right now, the Americans are up 1-0 in the competition. And the other 4 matches that are out there, it's all the U.S.
Yeah, it's 1 up, it's 3 up, it's 1 up, and it's 2 up.
It's underpants cam time type of thing.
This is serious underpants cam. This is Mike Weir might have to go on some retreat like Al's brother. Like Mike Weir might have
tonight, go on a retreat.
He might have to go on a retreat and reset. I mean, there's nothing Mike Weir can do. The captains, what are you going to do? You send your guys out there.
You just got to play better. Paul McGinley said it best on the Golf Channel. He's like, you got to put your opponent in a position. You got to play better, and that's as simple as it is.
Yeah, exactly. You got to put pressure on these guys. Like you have to apply pressure and get like multiple. You got to get 2 balls on greens. You got to get inside the Americans.
Yeah. And how many times since we've been sitting here watching, Hayes, have you said, man, if the international team makes this putt, they're putting the U.S. in a bad spot? Mm-hmm. Not a lot.
No, well,
it didn't happen.
And when they do have that opportunity, they don't make the putt. So then you got Scotty Scheffler walking up being like, all right, I got a 15-footer to win the hole. Yeah. Like, thank you. I'll take dead aim at this. And that's trouble. But the weather is beautiful here. The course is
Perfect.
set up really nice. It is going to be a very fun week. And, again, we want to thank the CFL Grey Cup. We're going to get pictures with you guys. I need you guys both holding this over
I don't
your
want
heads.
to. I've been around this. Keep in mind, when I grew up in Edmonton,
This was routine for you.
The Elks, the former
Yes.
Eskimos, it was called. They used to win this. It felt like yearly.
Oh, yeah. They won, what did they win, 5?
There was
Did they win 5 in a row?
Matt Dunnigan, Warren Moon.
Warren Moon won 5 of them.
There was Warren Moon, Tracy Ham into Matt Dunnigan, or some version of that. It was just dominance.
It was just routine. And then you had the Oilers doing what they were doing. It was incredible. And, again, the Alouettes are the Grey Cup champs, and we'll see what they have in store the rest of this way.
Right.
But the Jays are off today, and then they're going into their final weekend this weekend. And I saw last night watching the game, like not a ton of people in the crowd, as if that's some surprise.
People are done.
Once you get into the last week of a season that has really been difficult.
Game over.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing. And, like, the people are back in school, work routine, the Leafs are back. Like, there's just too much else competition going on.
Summer's over unless you're going to the playoffs
That's
in
it.
baseball.
They
It's very
fall on
clear.
the depth chart. That's really what it is.
That's
too.
exactly right. But they're no different than basically any other team. If the Yankees were on pace for the same season, Yankee Stadium wouldn't have 40,000 people in it.
No, you're right.
Like, if you do not have a winning record after such a long season, they're top 10 in attendance. Like they are a very well represented fan base and a building that gets packed. And if anything, again, because I saw some people writing or speculating, I wonder what Shapiro thinks or the Rogers family or whatever. They're not stupid.
That's
they
the
understand
tweet I
how
saw,
tough it
too.
is.
Shapiro's got to be looking around saying, this is disgusting.
No, I mean, are you kidding me? Mark Shapiro doesn't deserve anyone to be there, considering the way this season played out. They're
just-
lucky anybody's showing up for these games.
The fact that, I don't know, you guys are maybe more bullish on it. The fact, I still believe some form of heads will roll in this offseason. No?
It's getting interesting with the questioning for John Schneider in particular. He was asked about it today. I think Hazel May was talking to him, or maybe after the game last night. And, asked him, again, it's a difficult line of questioning to ask someone, do you think you're going to keep your job? It's very difficult to do, yet it is necessary. It is pro sports where turnover is just routine.
You think that question to a manager is appropriate?
I do think it's appropriate to ask someone, do you think your job is safe? I think it's
That's
very
tough,
difficult
though.
to ask. I think it's very difficult to ask, but it is a legitimate question that pertains to this team because every fan has an opinion on if Schneider, Atkins, Shapiro should return. It is the ongoing conversation that has existed throughout the year. I think on top of what happens with Vladdy in the future, what happens with Bichette, how are they going to turn this thing around into the future, has been the security of these three guys. And Schneider said, and it was kind of a PR answer, but I got a year left on my deal, and I'm looking forward to leading these guys.
Well,
which I actually really appreciate that answer because it wasn't a pissy response.
No.
How dare you? He just said, I got a year left, and I can't
See how
wait
it
to
goes.
get back, and I plan on winning next year.
If you did a Jerry's percentage on all three of them being back day one, where are you at?
All three, I'm going to go 0.
All three.
I'm actually going to go 0.
0 on Shapiro, Atkins, Schneider, all three returning.
Yes.
You're high
it's not
on it.
0%.
Okay, 15.
All right, fine. I would say 51%.
You're higher on it.
51?
51%.
You don't think it's
Mark
changing?
Shapiro's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, I think that's pretty clear. I'd be shocked if and let's be clear, if Shapiro's going anywhere, they're all going.
Right.
Like, if Shapiro's out, it's not like Atkins and Schneider are going to stick around.
I like from the conversations, I'm just basing it on our interactions, but do you not ever question yourself why is he so safe?
Well,
Is it just because of how ingrained he was with the rental?
Yes, I think that's a part of it. I don't know why that is the general sense, considering he's been here for a decade and they haven't won anything. They've never won the division. They've never competed
Never won a
really for the
playoff
division,
game.
and they've
But
never won a playoff game. Like that, you take out the people, you take out the city, the team, the
business
history,
side of it?
all of that. You say you're here for a decade and you haven't won one playoff game. That is difficult to justify
in
your
pro
future.
sports anywhere on this
Exactly.
planet, not just in this city
So
or wherever.
totally reasonable, I think, for a lot of people to say, why is this the case? That is my understanding, based on reporting,
Right.
based on, yes, his connection to the renovations, and I guess a sense that they want consistency within the front office.
Yeah.
And that is something that he personally has stated, that he believes in consistency and that it can benefit this team in the future, which leads me to believe if it's up to Shapiro, he's going to bring Atkins back, and I think they'd bring Schneider back. I think the question is, and we don't have this answer, is will someone above Shapiro make that decision? And if they do,
Well,
then they're going to win. In other words, if Edward Rogers walks in and goes, all right, Schneider's gone, and obviously Ross is gone, Mark Shapiro's going to go down there and do exactly what he's told to do, effectively, because you have to. If the owner makes that call, you got to go with it.
They'll fire like the pitching coach or something. Like, remember a couple of years ago, the Leafs didn't go well for them. Yeah, the goalie coach
always happens that way.
Goalie coach fired.
I think that's stupid. I hate that.
It happens all the time. You got to move up the coaches, the assistant coaches.
The goalie coach in the previous years, both of his goalies went to the All-Star game. You're fired. It's like that's the change you're going to make?
Well, that is always just a marketing play.
Right.
You got to let the fans know you've done something, but all the big boys are safe.
Yeah.
And that very well could end up being the case, that they do move off a hitting coach or a pitching coach or something like that. But I'm 51% that all three of the big boys are back next year. Yeah, I think so. All right, hour 2 coming up. Luke Wilson will join us. More on the Leafs game tonight. Leafs Habs tonight. Week 4 in the NFL coming up. Al's brother coming up as well. Hazenbro on the clock. We need to get back on the right path. We will be picking a winner in the next hour. Hour 2 continues up on TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.